Hello and welcome back to the Chelmsford News Show. I'm Tom Christiano. Well, tonight I'm very happy because we have another state representative candidate for District 14, Vivian Birchall. How are you, Vivian?
I am great, Tom. How are you today?
Good. Thank you for driving here from Acton.
It's a pleasure.
Today. It didn't take too long, did it? Like 20, 30 minutes?
30 minutes.
30 minutes, yeah.
Yes.
You know, when I first moved here in Massachusetts, I used to live in Acton.
Oh.
When I first worked at Hanscom Air Force Base.
Oh, right.
The Viking Village Apartments, did you ever hear of that, maybe?
Not really.
Yeah, it's on Parker Road.
Oh, okay, Parker Road.
Yeah, so I lived there for about 4.5 years. Then I bought the house here in Chelmsford.
Awesome.
But anyway, why we're talking about me, I don't know. But
Well, you are the show host, and all history matters because we're talking about the 14th Middlesex, and it's we are connected to each of the towns in some way. So.
Could you mention which towns you would be representing as a representative for 14th Middlesex District?
Absolutely. First of all, I wanted to say thank you so much for inviting me to your show. It's truly an honor. Community media is something that I hold so dearly, especially being somebody that works in community media. It plays a critical role in passing on information in our community. So I'm running for state rep for the 14th Middlesex District. So this covers the towns of Acton, precincts 1, 2, 6, and 7. Chelmsford, which is precincts 7 to 11. The Concord, precincts 1, 2, and 5. And the whole of Carlisle.
Nice.
Yes.
I was just riding through Carlisle yesterday. It's a beautiful town, as are Acton and Concord. In fact, it's a beautiful district you'll be representing.
It is. That's why you can imagine why I fell in love with it and why I want to fight for it.
Yes. Well, maybe it'd be good if we hear all about how you moved to Acton and your background. You want to start from, you mentioned the country that you were born in, I think. Do you want to mention all that and how you came to Acton?
Absolutely. So I am born and raised in Uganda, in the hills of southwestern Uganda. That's in East Africa. And I worked for the government there. And my first job in public policy was with the legislative body, what we call the parliament. And I worked to mobilize legislators to pass transparency-related legislation. And we passed the country's first Access to Information Act. But also, I worked on governance issues with the African Union. So where heads of state were assessing each other's performance in different governance areas, corporate governance, socioeconomic development. So talk about, how the way of life of people and, other governance areas. And I moved then in 2005, during my work with government, I was attending a wetlands conference. So I used to work with some legislators who were part of the natural resources, and we were hosting the UN conference called COP9, talking about how wetlands and how we can preserve them while, thinking of the way of life of the people as well. And that's how I met my husband. Oh. So through that relationship, we became friends, and he was also working in Hawaii with us in space science. So when we got married, I moved to Hawaii. So that's the connection. That's why I wanted to mention it. And in Hawaii, I volunteered with the prosecuting attorney's office. So we worked on environmental issues. Hawaii was one of the first 2 states in the country, in the United States, to have environmental courts. So I worked to understand what we needed for the environmental courts to be implemented. And that way, we would hold polluters accountable very quickly. And, it's one of the issues that we're struggling with, actually not just statewide, but globally. Yeah. So it's transferable experience that I hope to bring to the State House as well. And we also worked on restorative justice, being a prosecutor's office. So that's something I also care about. How do we resolve conflict in ways that restores our community and our people? And then I moved to, because I wanted to be closer to family, we moved we got a job, or my husband got a job here, Lincoln Labs, and we moved to this area.
What year was that?
That was in 2016.
2016, yeah?
Yes. And immediately I plugged myself into the community.
In Acton, right?
Yes.
In Acton, yeah.
Absolutely. So the first laundry I ever did was in Chelmsford. At the laundry mart. Laundry. Yep.
What do you mean? You bought a laundromat?
No, no, no. We didn't have a home, so I was in a hotel and I needed to do laundry.
Oh,
and the first place I came to was Chelmsford.
Really?
So Chelmsford has that special memory in my life.
Oh, I see. Wow.
And then, started working for the town of Acton in the land use department.
The land use.
Yes, so we are in the planning division and building division. So I've worked with, with the planning board, zoning board of appeals, community preservation. So these are areas that gave me an understanding on land use issues, not just in Acton, but across the neighboring towns, because we have to work with abutting towns and housing needs, all that fun stuff. So here I am today running for office.
So you worked there in that department in Acton, right?
Yes.
And then you've had other jobs, though, since then, right? Like the TV studio?
Yes. So while working with the town, I also used to produce shows because there were so many questions that people had in the community, but also so many concerns. So I saw a gap and a need to have a space where we have these community conversations. So I created shows on Acton TV. Then during the pandemic, I decided to do that full time. So I'm at Acton TV full time, hosting conversations about water quality, about housing, climate change, all these issues that we're facing in a way that shares information, but also brings all the players together to understand what the challenges are, what we need to do to address them.
And you're the producer of the show?
Yes.
You're the producer? And what's the name of your show?
I have 4 shows.
Oh, you're like me. Oh my God. I used to have 5 at one time.
But the full-time show is called Acton in Focus. So
Acton in Focus.
Yes, so that one focuses on issues in and around the Acton area. Then there is Widefield, which the scope is broader because then I can talk about state issues. I've hosted Congresswoman Lori Trahan. I have hosted Susan Bump, who is the state auditor. So those are the kinds of conversations that I feel are needed because sometimes we feel like state government is far removed from the people, and it should not be that way.
Yes.
We need to get community as part of the state processes and policy-making decisions.
Wow, wonderful.
Yes.
And how do you like hosting and producing the TV shows?
I love it because it really keeps me plugged in the community. I have the opportunity to listen. It teaches me to listen, something that we need even as representatives to be able to do.
Yes.
And not just listening, but understanding the pain, the frustration, be it with water infrastructure, understanding that the people are dealing with as frustrated and scared of PFAS levels, and which gives me an opportunity to go to the water departments and districts and try to understand, what's the progress and how should people be safe and what can we do as a community to help support each other. So yes, I love it.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I do too. I work with great people like Pete Padula, who directs just about all of my shows, except the ones I do. I do remote shows a lot with small businesses. I go with my camera and microphone and talk to people about their business or their art community, whatever it is.
Right.
So I do a lot of shows on the road as well.
Thank you for all you do, because it's really a much needed service for our community.
I think so. And
Yes.
speaking of which, you have many producers in Acton doing TV shows?
Yes, so we do have some producers. They are volunteer producers, but many of them are, cooking shows. Then we have other shows that are not about culture, different culture. We are increasingly diverse in this district and in the state. So it's a great way to actually, get a glimpse of life outside our own lives.
Yes.
So,
yes.
which is great, and understanding each other's community and accepting each other and working together. So it's a beautiful thing.
It is, yes. Well, and since you're running for state representative, some people may be wondering about your educational background. Can we talk a little about that?
Absolutely. So my initial bachelor's was in development studies.
Development studies?
Yes, in Uganda. And that
And
was...
what college was that? Do you have a
It was
big
a
state
university,
college?
yes, education, so a bachelor's in development studies. And this was an intersection. It's a multidisciplinary course that covers economics, political science, and socioeconomic development.
Right. And the college name was?
Makerere University.
Makerere University.
Yeah, it's one of the
right
biggest in the
Uganda.
region. Yes.
So you get that when you were young, maybe, or I mean, just out of high school or something. I don't know.
Yes. So out of high school, I got an education through hardship, by the way, because I lost my dad when I was I just turned 13. So the reason I care about education, public education, is I know firsthand the struggles of getting an education if you don't have enough resources.
Yes.
So mine was a story of struggle. And even at university, when I say I'm going to support debt-free college, I know what it means to not know whether you're going to complete the next semester because you don't have money.
Yes. So did you get scholarships or some help
Yes,
like that?
I did at the final year. So I was able to complete my education.
And you had good grades, therefore?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
You worked hard in that?
Absolutely.
And,
And then I went on and did a postgraduate in governance at the University of Pretoria in South Africa. That was to help work, because I mentioned that I was working on governance programs with different heads of state across the continent and different governments, which gives me, by the way, the skill of collaboration.
Yes.
Because when we are looking at a district like the 14th Middlesex, it has 4 towns. We need my skill set of bringing people together and understanding collaborative processes is something that we're going to need to get Chelmsford the kind of representation that it needs. Yes, through funding for education, funding for our water infrastructure, funding for other, healthcare. Yes. I've been having conversations with people in Chelmsford, and people are frustrated just navigating the application process alone for, healthcare for us seniors. It just breaks my heart to listen to all these stories, and I want to fight for the people. So anyway, then the third, when I moved here, I studied media and medicine at Harvard Medical School. Because healthcare, again, is something that I hold so dearly. We only have one life, so everyone at least needs an opportunity to get a chance to have healthcare. Yes. So that course at Harvard Medical School enabled me to be able to tell stories, healthcare stories, in ways that can influence policy and ignite change and center people.
And that was a course you took?
Yes.
After you received your bachelor's degree?
Correct.
And then did you go for a master's at all, or?
Not yet.
Not yet, no. But you took extra courses like in medical things, so you learned about the medical community.
Yes, and I'm a cooperator also at Emerson Hospital.
And what exactly does that mean, a cooperator?
It's like an ambassador.
Oh, an ambassador.
So it gives me an insight into the healthcare challenges, both on the provider's side, because providers also have some challenges, and also the people who need that service. And actually, I was called on to train staff in their perinatal unit in cultural competence because they were having some challenges providing effective care for immigrants. So that is something that I pride.
So what does that mean exactly? To training them in cultural competence?
Yeah. So understanding the different groups and nuances of people, so that if they are providing care, it can ease communication and understanding between the patient and the provider.
To help them.
Right.
Because some of them, maybe you said they were immigrants, right? They didn't know English that well, maybe?
That's a great question about English. So English is relative. Yeah. English is spoken across the world. But the interpretation of words, the expression of words is completely different. English is my third language.
Really?
So,
what's your first?
The first one is called Runyankore, or some calls Ruhoro. And then another one is Luganda, which is my mother's, and then English.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, but I can communicate in more than those.
Nice.
So, but again, back to English. When we talk about, understanding or improving communication. It is really critical to both giving services and receiving services in our community. And that is actually something that I also want to pay attention to in the legislature. How can we make legislation in a way that everyone, regardless of the language they speak, can benefit?
Yes, yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I could go on and on, but yeah, so those are some of the different trainings I've had. And I remember when I was also in Hawaii, I wanted to understand how to provide care for my children. So I did I went ahead and did a short course, CNA course, just to be able
And
to.
CNA, could you define that?
Certified nursing assistant.
Oh, nice, certified. So you took that course?
Yeah, I did.
And are you a certified nurse assistant now?
No, because, but it also gave me an insight into the challenges of the lower paid providers in healthcare and some of the challenges that they face as providers versus how much they earn and how much work they have to do. So when we're talking about, improving an environment where everyone can thrive, when we look at CNAs, they're the ones who care for our seniors. They are the ones who care for us when we are impaired one way or the other. So how do we create an environment where they can also live in the towns that we live? So how can we improve housing situations? So how can we improve wages? So all those are issues that, again, I'm trying to bring life experience into our legislation.
Yes.
At the end of the day, as people in Chelmsford and the 14th Middlesex District, we have to look at the quality of life. And that is what my campaign is all about, improving the quality of life of the people in Chelmsford and the other towns in the
Yes,
district.
that would be wonderful. We all want that, right? Improving our quality of life.
Right.
But you mentioned your children. Could you talk a little bit about your beautiful family?
Absolutely. So I have two little girls who are, one is 7 and 10, but I also have a stepdaughter. She lives in England.
How old is she?
She's 22.
I see. She lives in what part of England?
Liverpool.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Where
So-
the Beatles were from. Yeah. So
So
that's
I am
nice.
blessed to have three girls who are also informed some of the priorities that I'll be looking at. Even when we're talking about education, in addition to funding, what are other enablers for education, like female hygiene products in our schools, so that the girls don't feel so embarrassed. They can have access to those things.
Yes.
And it takes sometimes that if one doesn't have that life experience, it's hard to think about it and provide legislation to improve our education in that way.
And are they going to schools in Acton?
Correct.
At the public schools there?
Yes.
Which are very good schools, right? That's one reason you moved there, maybe?
Actually, we moved there because it was the first available apartment.
Oh, really? Interesting. Yeah.
But we love we love the community. We love all the towns that are surrounding. We looked in Chelmsford. We looked everywhere, but there was no available apartment at the time when we were moving.
And your husband, as you mentioned, works at Lincoln Laboratories,
Correct.
which is like in the compound of Hanscom Air Force Base,
Oh,
because I used to work there as well. It's
Oh,
right
okay.
nearby. There's a big building there, Lincoln Lab.
Yeah, but he mostly works in Westford.
Oh, he doesn't work in that big building there.
Not really.
Oh, in Westford, nice.
Yes.
So it's, well, equidistant, right? Not that far from Acton.
Right.
Right, that's good. That's
Yes.
good. Well, you mentioned housing and quality of life. So what are your ideas of helping get us more affordable housing and other housing for everyone?
Yeah, that is, housing has continued to be one of the complex issues in Chelmsford. And, I've talked to some of the community leaders. Yesterday I had a meeting with with one of the select board members. And we talked about the need to balance the 40B, for example.
Yes.
The 40B program. And in Acton, we got into safe harbor, and there wasn't any availability for, to build more housing. And the same, I think, with Chelmsford.
Yes.
And so then there is the affordable housing that is managed by the housing authorities that is struggling with funding. So as a priority, I would be looking at first of all, increasing affordable housing to support the housing authorities, and also to get funding for senior housing, because that is a demographic that is not really getting enough housing options.
Yes.
People who need to downsize, people who need to live closer to their younger families. So those will be some of my priorities.
I see, yes. Wonderful. I just noticed that the clock isn't on over there, but that's okay, Pete. I'll use my clock here.
Yeah.
You also mentioned education. Do you have any ideas about getting us more educational funding or?
So again, unfortunately, since I'm not yet in the legislature, I'm only looking at what they're doing right now, which is looking at the Chapter 70 funding.
Yes.
But so I would go in wanting to change that a little bit, because that's one of the reasons that Chelmsford is not getting its fair share, and which is not, it's not fair. But in addition to that, I want to look at other enablers for education. Can we find, people who are, say, budget lines that are outside of education that could be moved toward education? And also this morning I had a meeting with one of the school committee members, just again about the same budgeting. So balancing budgets has been a challenge across the school districts, and there are so many overrides. Getting, first of all, pre-K education free is one of something that could relieve parents.
Yeah.
And
excuse me, we don't have that now? Pre-K that's free?
No.
In the state of Massachusetts? Okay.
Well, some towns have it.
Okay.
But
Some towns.
you mean, but statewide, no.
I know, I see. So right now, it's free from kindergarten on, depending on the community, but I assume people get free kindergarten and then elementary education.
Right.
Yeah.
And then also just making child care services available, because we have many many mothers especially have been affected, and they've been pushed out of the workforce because of child care struggles. I was one of them when I had just moved here. I couldn't afford childcare. So when you're talking about education, that's another area that we could support. Then improving, electrifying, the buses, and even before, alongside electrifying buses, just because of the interest of climate change, there is also getting money to refurbish old buildings, because our children are, in Chelmsford, are in schools that are so many 100 years old, and they are using pipes that are old. And that is going to be a priority of mine. It's just not acceptable. It's not, there's probably mold, and so again, quality of life.
And that could all be improved with state funding. Could help the local communities refurbish all of these schools.
Yeah,
get better HVAC systems in.
Right, and again, that goes back to my background. So my background is planning, long-range planning. So that's being able to identify who the players can be, what partnerships we can build, because state funding, if it's very limited, then we have to think outside the box and say, okay, can we partner with some private institutions and companies and support, maybe refurbish old buildings?
Yes.
So this is something that I like to be proactive about the solutions that we have.
I see, yes.
And I look forward to doing my best in that area.
I'm sure you will. You're a very hard worker, right? Do you ever stop during the day or whatever? Just you go from like 5 in the morning till like 10 at night or something, I bet.
Like we usually joke, I will sleep when I die.
Yeah, there's a quote by Ben Franklin. It's in one of my quote books. Up sluggard, you'll have plenty of time to rest in the grave.
Right. There is too much to work on that, we'll just keep plugging away, But again, I can't do it on my own. We do it as a community. And when you look at Chelmsford, it will have 3 representatives. So as somebody who likes to bring people together and convene, this is my goal, to be able to convene all the representatives so that we speak together and center Chelmsford.
Yes.
Because it's not that they have one precinct and the other has the other. It's the town of Chelmsford, yes, with the same needs, and that will be my focus.
And I assume you've met the other 2 representatives who are running, who we currently have, Jim Arcero, and the other newer rep. Have you met them yet, or?
I mean, it's in the plan. I'd
Oh,
love
good,
to meet
good,
with
yeah,
them.
nice.
Yes.
Yeah, Jim has been on my show many times, Jim
Oh,
Arcero.
yes.
In fact, I hosted the first debate with him when he ran against Pat Wojcik from Chelmsford
Okay.
for state rep, and he's been our state rep in those precincts ever since. But what are your other priorities, might I ask, before our time runs out? We're getting towards the end of the show already.
Right.
Your priorities if elected.
Right. So again, overall, it is to improve the the well-being of everyone in the community. So this is what I look at: representation and people. I want to be able to pass, as a general rule, legislation where everyone can see themselves in it. Because if we do that, then people own it,
Yes.
and then it's easy to implement. Yes. But if we make legislation where it looks far removed from people, then we lose because nobody cares. They think, oh, that's done at the state. We'll just stay and do our own struggles. So I want to be a partner in this development process. In addition, when we talk about what area specific, so climate change is certainly one. We only have one world. Housing, education, public school education, and healthcare. Those are, and women's reproductive rights and voting rights, because they are being, we need everybody to have access to voting rights.
So what do you think about universal absentee voting, for example? If somebody just says, I'd rather vote, you send me the ballot and I'll mail it in. I don't think we have that yet universally in Massachusetts.
I think it should be automatic. Yeah. I think the system should be designed that at a certain time you just send mail-in ballots to everyone, and then they send them back.
Yes, yeah.
And that's what I'll be supporting.
It's all the paper documents too, so they'll have the records that could be verified. So I agree. I think a lot of times people they might be getting old and they can't walk that well or whatever.
Absolutely.
And it'd be so convenient for them to vote that way.
Absolutely.
And how's your campaign going so far? Do you have a campaign manager or treasurer?
Yes. I do.
Do you have a website you want to mention?
Yes. So my website is vivianbirchall.com.
And that's BIRCHALL, right?
Correct.
Vivianbirchall.com.
Yes.
So that's your website, and they could probably find your email address there, but would you like to give out your email address? Or?
Yes, absolutely. So my email is vivian@vivianbirchall.com. So vivian@vivianbirchall.com.
Oh, nice. That's easy.
Yes.
Vivian
So first name at vivianbirchall.com.
Nice.
Yes.
And how are you with emails? Do you mind getting a lot of emails from people? Or?
Yes. I
You don't mind, right?
I don't mind. Like, I love emails because I want to represent, everyone. I want to hear these voices, these stories, these frustrations, and translate those into policy once elected.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So are you going to have any debates with the other Democratic candidates?
I don't know yet. It will depend on, the organizations that usually organize the debates, League of Women Voters. So, but I'm excited to say that, we're fortunate as a state to have great candidates this year. And so I think it's a win-win for Massachusetts and for the 14th Middlesex.
Yes. Well, I'm so glad you're running, Vivian, and you seem like you're a very well-experienced, well-educated person who could do a great job if elected.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tom.
And I'm looking forward to you being back on the show, maybe in early August. Along with Simon, I'll be interviewing him as well.
Okay.
And maybe we could even do both of you on the same show. That would be interesting. But it's only half an hour, so it just goes by so fast.
Right.
So maybe we'll do separate shows.
Right.
In early August. Would that be okay?
Absolutely. I'm always happy.
And we have about 20 seconds left. Do you want to ask the people for the vote?
Yes, thank you so much. So, people of Chelmsford, again, my name is Vivian Birchall, running for the 14th Middlesex District. Please vote for me. I'll take this responsibility seriously. I will work hard for you. I know what it means to want to be represented. I will fight for you, but I will work alongside you as well. Thank you so much, and I hope to hear from you all.
Thank you very much, Vivian. It's great to have you on the show. Good luck with everything.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you.
All right.